We will now begin our second panel discussion titled The Digital Backbone of Modern Hospital Technology Priorities. As hospitals become increasingly digital, the conversation around technology is no longer just about adoption, it's about priorities. Cyber resilience, governance, return on investment, and building future-ready infrastructure. We are honored to have with us the following esteemed speakers for this session. To moderate this session, may we please have on stage Ms. Hiral Sarin, healthcare professional. Ms. Hiral Sarin is a seasoned healthcare professional with nearly 2 decades of expertise in hospital operation and strategic planning. He is recognized for driving operational excellence, optimizing resources, and enhancing service delivery through strong leadership and process-driven management. So, moderator, Ms. Hiral Sarin, can we please have you on stage? Yeah. Let's applaud for Ms. Hiral Sarin. We also have with us Mr. Girish Koppar, Consulting CIO, Shree Hospital, Bhubaneswar. He is the Consulting CIO at Shree Hospital, Bhubaneswar. He is a healthcare IT strategist with deep expertise in digital transformation, hospital information system, and technology-led operational efficiency. Let's applaud for Mr. Girish Koppar. And we also have with us Mr. Viloo Williams, Director, Healthcare Practice, Univitt AI Technologies. Let's applaud for Ms. Viloo Williams. May I request the panelists to take the stage? Over to you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Today, our topic for discussion is digital backbone of modern hospital. Nice word, digital backbone. We all know that India's digital health adoption is growing fast, but it is fragmented. I believe that if hospitals are the heart of healthcare, then technology is definitely the nervous system, which governs the clinical outcomes, patient experience, patient interaction, and so on. But the real question why we are here today is, are we building a truly resilient digital backbone, or just layering systems faster than we can govern, secure, and justify? Now, if we look at 5 years from now, the conversation is no longer just about digitization. In fact, it is about 3 Ps. First, prioritization. Do we invest at the right place? Protection. Do we safeguard the data? And third, proof. So we have some great panelists here, and we'll quickly begin the discussion. We'll start with the ladies first. So, ma'am, since you've been in hospitals as CIO and now you're a consultant CIO as well, what are the biggest shifts in perspective you have had, especially when it comes to technology priorities, cyber risk, and ROI?
Thank you, Hiral, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having us here, Aristocrat Media. To first answer, let me go back to my CIO days, which were till recently. I have been working in the hospitals for over 13, 14 years. And before that, as a consultant on the software side. So I have seen the best of both worlds in terms of technology to start with, over 20 years, and then as a CIO in the hospitals. And trust me, it's not the same. When you actually come into a hospital and you see how the non-clinical administrative sides are run, you'll have a lot of learning curves to understand. So, yes, and I fortunately had the best of CEOs to work with. To explain some things about hospital technology side is that people are more focused on the clinical front and less on the administrative side, because they feel that, okay, I have an HR system, I have a digital landscape available, and that's it. But what we really don't understand is, in the previous panel, a lot of focus was given on the processes and the functions, and the way the hospitals have to adapt that on the digital side, on the technology side, is a very, very different way of working. And that is where hospitals need to focus, and especially now with AI coming in, Now, when I'm currently working with an AI institute, we are trying to build tools and technology which will enable that same processes, the same functions to be much more clear, much more outcome-driven, and much more secure. So if I simply ask one of the CEOs previously in the panel, you're getting all the analytics, you're getting all the data, you are storing so much of non-clinical data as well. But how confident are you to enable that data to give you the real insights, the predictions, the interpretations out of that data accurately without your entire teams, financial teams, your administrative teams sitting and working on it manually, using Excel sheets, of course, maybe even using some AI tools here and there. But how much of that information comes accurately to your fingertips without spending that kind of time and effort? So that is where our focus is right now. And I hope that we can make much more inroads into the hospital.
So can I say that all these discussions in the boardroom with the leadership team looks very nice, but when it actually comes to implementation at the ground level, it is challenging?
Yes, it is challenging. In a hospital, there are two very specific areas, the medical side and the non-medical side. And when these two entities work with IT, for example, everything becomes an IT responsibility. And even the business side, who should actually be driving it, leaves it to IT to drive it. So this is one challenge where the CEOs or the promoters or the top-level leadership can actually help the IT teams in enforcing certain requirements which will make life easy for everybody and much more successful on the implementation side.
So digital is not just an IT issue. I think it is the role of one and all who are a part of healthcare. Thank you very much for your insight, ma'am. I'll come to the next panelist. Sir, I would like to ask you one question. From your consulting experience, what are the common challenges you see organizations making in their digital transformation journey?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Farooq and Aristocrat Media, for having me here. See, a lot of takeaways from the first panel discussion, extremely insightful and very well discussed. So if you ask me, digitization is not a choice now. Initially, it was a choice. Now, it is not a choice. And people are realizing it, taking some cues from Joy Chakravarti, like how he said they have a committee for AI and ML. Unless the top, it should be a top-down approach. The vision should be clearly set by the management, and then it should percolate down. So once the top management is very clear what they want and it's communicated, IT is just a catalyst. As Viloo was saying, the onus is not on IT. IT will only play the role of a catalyst to ensure that whatever vision is there of the top management on digitization, that has been executed.
Sir, also we're hearing that NABH has been a governing body for accreditations for hospitals, labs, emergencies, nurses, and so on. So we also have something called as DHS, wherein now NABH is also recommending that you should go for a digital health. Can you throw some light on the subject?
See, government has a lot of initiatives for digitization. One is NABH has come up with this new DHS standards, which is digital health standards. Initially, hospitals could get accredited for NABH and NABL. Now what they want to do is they want also the SHCOs, that is a small hospital healthcare organization, also to be a part of the mainstream. Because if you see the typical hospitals which are, they are all group hospitals and corporate hospitals. But what about the nursing homes and all? So this is an initiative by NABH to have some digital literacy for the nursing home also, so they also be a part of that. Other than that, there is also DP Act which has come up, which was passed in November 25, and every hospital has to comply by May 27, where there are a lot of things on cyber security, data privacy and all, which is also a part of this thing. So a lot of initiative taken by this thing, like ABDM is also there. So what government is trying to do is have data on a single click. Ultimately, what is digitization is having data, real-time data at a click of a button. That is what very small this thing, but that is very important for decision making.
you like to add
I would like to add something. So, whatever Girish has said just now, just taking that a little step ahead, what NABH is focusing on more is working with the government on the interoperability for the hospitals. And that can happen only when there are digital standards. They need to standardize the same processes across the board, across the hospitals, because if they are not standardized, then the data sharing becomes a very big challenge. So whether it is on the security front, whether it is on the structural front, on the architecture front, they need to standardize the processes. So once your processes on the NABH functioning part was done, now is the focus on the digital health standards, where there is actually a need to make sure that data can be in such a format that it can be easily exchanged.
See, the patient is the king now. So what we were trying to say is, when interoperability is, if I am a patient of hospital A and B, I should have the data of both. So hospital B should be able to share the data
like
of
a
A.
vault.
Yeah. So you should not carry all the baggage of all the reports. So that is what the government is trying to do.
Okay, coming back to ma'am, what are the 3 non-negotiable cybersecurity measures every hospital should adapt? Because when we talk about cybersecurity, we only look at the patient privacy. I think there's something beyond that. So can you throw some light on that?
See, actually, in my near past experience, I have seen cybersecurity taken up very, very leniently by hospitals. There is no real focus by the hospitals to spend on that kind of requirement, which is genuinely needed today. And more so from the DPDP perspective, because you can't, safeguard data, you can't safeguard patient information unless you have a 360-degree environment which is looking at the security aspect from various angles. And cybersecurity is a very big, broad, generic term. When you look at it from a narrowed down approach, first is the data security itself. There are hospitals being hacked left, right, center, and though nobody brings it out and talks about it that openly. And another thing is that because hospitals are focused on proper backups or proper, safeguard measures, they are still a little bit safe in the sense that they don't lose data, they don't pay heavy random, ransomware fees, and that is why they think, okay, we are still very safe. But there are chances, and there are very, very likely chances where hospitals can lose data in volumes. There are hospitals which have digital data to the tune of 20 years, 30 years, all the legacy hospitals. And this safeguard is mandatory now, maybe from the perspective of a patient who is not at all levels really tuned to the idea of having their own privacy controlled. Today also we see a lot of hospitals where patients are discussing their problems all across openly. So the hospitals feel like, okay, when nobody else is bothered about their own data, why do we need to take so much of safeguards and put in effort and money to safeguard it? But this is the biggest challenge that CIOs face, because at the end of the day, cybersecurity, though it is actually a business requirement, becomes an IT issue. If you get hacked, only IT is responsible for it. If you lose your data, it is only IT who has to answer where and why the data went, and how to safeguard it in the near future. So all this is fine. IT can be treated as a catalyst to create an environment, but the lead has to come from the top leadership, who has to put in that effort, the budgets and the requirements to get the right tools and safeguard the data. And especially with the systems going on the cloud now, this is one of the mandatory requirements, where the cloud data has to be safeguarded, on-premise has to be safeguarded. So when coming back to the actual original question, that if the 3 priorities are to be done, one is you have to secure your IT environment. Whether you need to put in enough money, you need to have the budgets for it, but you have to have the right tools and technology to safeguard it. The second priority is not to share the data so openly in the hospitals where everyone knows about everything. So yes, we talk about systems having role-based access and the systems having, a lot of access priorities set. But if a nurse knows every patient's history and a doctor knows every patient's history who is not even treated by them, then that becomes an issue. The way they share data on WhatsApp, the way they share clinical data on WhatsApp. So these are the things that we need to handle, wherein you use communication tools, you use systems in such a way that your safeguard does not get hampered for the core data.
So taking some key takeaways from what Sir said, patient is the king, and you mentioned about budget, you mentioned about cybersecurity is not just an IT issue. So yes, patient is the king, and we want to empower the patient by giving his own data in his hands, but not at the cost of somebody else's privacy. But ma'am, as you rightly said that we are talking about cyber risk, and it is very important that we protect the data. Do you think the budget of IT is actually taken into consideration, and what is approved, funded, and what is deferred?
Yes, getting the budgets from the finance and the CFOs and the CEOs is definitely a challenge. But what I've seen in my past experience is that if you can justify the need in the right manner, in the right approach, then they will definitely reprioritize the budgets. So if you want everything within that year, then nothing will come to you. So you need to put in your 10 top priorities, and maybe you'll get 5 out of these. And if you can justify cybersecurity over and above maybe the other 5 or other 10, then you will definitely get the budgets for it. Especially now that with the government focus so much on the DPDP, this kind of a cybersecurity requirement will get focus, because the liabilities and the legal implications of it are very high. Even doctors who are not bothered about all these things in their day-to-day treatment requirements, these people are also waking up. They are also looking at cybersecurity more positively. There are many tools. You don't need to spend endless amount of money. There are ways to bring in cybersecurity in a much more cost-effective way. And when you implement these tools, you have to look at the scalability of these tools, not just you invest today, tomorrow it doesn't work, third day again you invest money, and so on. So when you bring in tools and technology, your first thing is the cost, of course, but the most important thing is the scalability, how easily the same system will sustain you for the next 5 years, if not 10 years. And technology changes very fast. So going for a 10-year technology is not really prudent. But yes, for a 5-year term, you can build something very solid in your IT environments, which will safeguard from all cyber risks.
I'd like to add what on cybersecurity. See, digitization is a good thing to have, but it opens a lot of a Pandora's box. Now, what happens if you digitize? Everybody wants to access data wherever they are. You have your website, doctors want to access from home, there are third-party vendors. So you need to understand who's accessing data from where, and that shouldn't be compromised. Second is, cybersecurity is like an insurance. Unless there's an attack, nobody takes it seriously. So it has to be governed. And now with so much of this, a lot of organizations are having CISOs, that is your security officer. Initially, CISO was just a terminology, but now people have realized a CIO's job is only to run the IT department. He cannot focus on the CISO part. You need a specialized person, because the impact is very high. Because the value of clinical data, this thing is very high. It's an intangible data. So now you see, you have a CISO, you have a CDO, there's a chief digital officer, because again, as I said, digitization is not an option now. So you should have specialized people for the jobs. Only then you can implement. You can't ask a CIO who's doing his daily thing to also look after cybersecurity, digitization, and obviously you should have it across the this. When I say CDO, it should be also a non-technical person and the functional head should be involved. So all these things are also mandatory.
Just one last point to add to what Girish said. As a CIO, we were always, given the responsibility of the security part as well. And he's brought out this point very valid. What I would also request hospitals to do in terms of moving ahead on the cybersecurity front is, just as you so neatly document all your processes for NABH, you put your policies in place, there is the certification or the accreditation for security, which is extremely tedious. Yes, it is also cost impact is there, but doing those policies in-house with maybe 1 or 2 security-driven team members, and if you start with that process, that does not cost money. It just costs an effort and a drive from the top to the bottom. If you build these policies, it opens your eyes to understanding where you are lacking, where is the biggest gap. And even without spending a single money on any external consultant or on the accreditation, you will be able to sustain your cybersecurity initiatives very well in the first 1-2 years. You will just be able to enforce those policies. And later on, when you feel confident after 2 years of driving this, you may go in for that accreditation, which confirms that you are actually a secure organization.
Okay, my next question, sir, is, ma'am spoke a lot about investment, cost, management, leadership. So wherever there is cost, scalability, investment, the question comes about ROI. And I would ask you is, would you recommend a shift from ROI to ROV, especially for patient experience or clinical outcomes, or should we look at it as a pure ROI component?
Just one thing I would like to add on the cyber security before I take up the question. See, the most neglected part is the internal threat on cyber security, because your own people have access to so much of data which is not required. So you should be very careful and what access you are giving to whom. Because whenever you say cyber security, people are thinking of external threat, but the major threat is internal. Okay, now moving on to your question on ROI versus ROV. Again, digitization, there's a cost to it. And now, as in the previous panel, there were a lot of discussion on data. So what is digitization doing is, it is adding value to the top management. How is you get real-time information on the dashboards on the click of a button. Now, most of the hospitals, they don't, the CEOs and the top management, they do not have a laptop every time. So how can you have those dashboards curated on a mobile app? So anytime they want to know what's the occupancy, they can just open the list, they can see. So how you, as a CIO, when you take a proposal, how you set in the value, and that is important, how you convince that this is going to be helpful. And now, information is the key to take decisions. If you don't get real-time information, you can't take decisions. Initially, I've been in the industry for the last 2 decades. So this occupancy reports and all, they were all minus day one. They were all previous day. Now, that it is not acceptable. You have to have a data real-time at a click of a button. That is non-negotiable. So how do you add value? You need to have applications built around so that there's a CFO dashboard. So whatever that the functional head or the CEO, CFO wants should be available. So decisions, faster decisions means faster this thing. So you can't delay a decision because the data is not available.
Ma'am, your thoughts on ROI when it comes to digital health?
So what I have seen as a CIO in hospitals is that if you can convince the CFO not to just look, because IT can never be a pure ROI-driven department or an entity. What we see it is, how do we help business to move faster, move more accurately, and move. So all the money that we invest in IT, whether it is in the infrastructure, whether it is in the security, whether it is in the applications, What we focus on is how is this going to drive the business better? And if CIOs don't think like this, then there is no point in investing that money which we keep on asking for. It's not about great hardware. It's not about moving to cloud. It's not about even just sticking to on-premise. So that is one part of it. And as you rightly said, it moves automatically from ROI to ROV because it is not something that you see, I'm investing this much, I'm going to get a return on it. It's all indirect returns and nobody is monitoring this. In a hospital, has ever any CEO or a promoter thought, I gave IT 2 crore rupees for this year, okay, what exactly did that 2 crore rupees return to me? Yes, they see revenues, they see the growth, they see the RPOP, they see everything. But have they ever seen how much of that has come through the digitization that IT has done? How much of process improvement has come in? How much of NABH, your simple things. You have so many elements and objectives in NABH. How many, non-compliance is reduced due to digitization, not due to just following a process. So there are a lot of such things that IT can actually bring in using, spending money for digitization to bring in the true sense of any kind of returns on investments. One last thing I would like to bring out is that, and similarly goes for the cybersecurity as well, because the day you have to pay 100 crores penalty, you will know that you should have paid the 10 crores that IT wanted for cybersecurity. But that is a secondary issue. What I would like to bring out also is that when we are talking about ROI, we sit with the business side first, and then we decide what are the priorities that are pertaining to the growth. Like, for example, in the previous panel, the question of AI had come up, but it was not really addressed the way everybody talks about AI. Every CEO, every promoter talks about AI today in hospitals, but how many hospitals have genuinely brought in that aspect of artificial intelligence, which is really required? He brought in the requirements of dashboards. You know very well how much capacity is your OPD footfall. Your hospital is able to take your OPD footfall. For example, a very, very simple and tiny KPI. You may be able to consider every day I can handle 2,000 walk-in patients. But you are actually handling 500. You know the difference. Your dashboards are telling you, okay, my OPD footfalls are not met. How many of your dashboards actually tell you why they are not met? What should you have done internally to make sure that these footfalls should have been met? Is it that your doctors are not sufficiently giving appointments? Is it that where are these insights coming from? No analytics dashboards today gives you any kind of insights. A lot of software has been evaluated by me over the last 13, 14 years. In fact, I have come from a background where my career started with developing HIS systems for the first 16 years. So yes, we also built a lot of fancy MIS. We also built a lot of reports. But are these reports giving any CEO the insights without having to spend hours going through that data to understand what is the data telling me? This is what we need, and AI can beautifully drive this, and on the non-clinical side. But today, even after 20 years of data, it is not possible to get that quality data that we need to drive this. And we, in turn, can actually bring in modifications. We can bring in more of strategic architecture changes where we can actually build this data alongside your regular digital systems.
I know Farooq is pressing just one last this thing. See, whatever value IT gets is a very intangible. You can't quantify that value. So it's a very tricky question, how do we add value? So as a CIO or a CDO, the best part is they have to align with the CEOs, understand what the vision is, and then propose. That is what I mean.
So I completely agree what you said, ma'am, is that digital adoption is happening, but it's fragmented. We have a long way to go, and still the outcomes people have not seen. So I can say that there's a disconnect in what the boardroom discussions happen and what actually in reality can happen. With this, we end today's discussion. I would like to close the statement by saying, in healthcare, technology succeeds only when it becomes invisible to the caregiver and valuable to the patient. Thank you, everyone. And if you have any questions, you can definitely ask them during the lunch break. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all our panelists for a highly relevant and engaging discussion. The ideas shared around digital priorities, cybersecurity, and measurable ROI are vital for every healthcare institution planning for the future. I would request all the panelists to kindly remain on the stage for felicitation and a group photograph. And may I please have on stage Mr. Farooq to felicitate all the panelists. Ms. Hiral Sarin, healthcare professional. Let's keep the applause going, guys. We can do better with applause. Mr. Girish Koppar, consulting CIO, Shree Hospital, Bhubaneswar. Ms. Viloo, Director, Healthcare Practice, Univitt AI Technologies.